Today we are going to talk about cell. What is a cell? Cell is a basic unit of life. As we know, all the living organisms are made up of cell. Either they are unicellular, that is single cell organism, or they are multicellular, which means containing million trillions of cells. How this cell was discovered? Discovery of cell. Most importantly, for this discovery, we have to understand microscope. As we all know, cell is not visible to eyes, visible to unaided eyes, which means we cannot see cell like this without microscope. So first we will see how the microscope evolved with the time. In 1590, Zacharias Janssen invented a microscope which was further modified by Galileo in 1610. It was modified by Galileo. Later Robert Hooke invented modern microscope. This modern microscope was similar to our light microscope used in lab. You may have seen laboratory microscope, simpler one, having a compound lens and then condenser lens to focus the light, which will make a object illuminated, and this will go to objective light, which will further go to eye lens, and from here we are going to see whatever we want to observe, we will observe. So this full concept was given by Robert Hooke. Where is Robert Hooke? Yeah, here it is. Robert Hooke. And this man, he invented the modern microscope, or he has given the scheme of this modern microscope. Now, what does he observe and how he discovered? Let us see. He worked on cork of oak. He was mathematician. Most importantly, he was mathematician and he was working on cell biology. So you can say it is a kind of interest he had in botany. So he studied many plant tissue, and from this was most important, cork of oak. And here he observed this. He made a thin slice. He cut thin slice of cork and observed it under the microscope, and he observed honeycomb like structure, which he named cellulae or cellule. He thought it is a passage through which conducting fluid can pass, and he named it cell. Before Robert Hooke also, there was one more, Malpighi. He also discovered the cell, and he named the cell Sacules utricle. This was the name given by him to cell Malpighi. It is important. One more thing, Robert Hooke wrote book named Micrographia. It is important for exam, so remember it. This was a book in which 18th chapter he wrote about cell. 18th chapter he wrote about cell. Then after Malpighi and Robert Hooke, the another one most important, Leeuwenhoek. He was the one to observe living cell. So he observed the living cell and made sketch also, bacteria, spermatozoa, etc. After these people, Robert Brown was the next. Let me write over here. Robert Brown was the next person to discover nucleus. So you have to remember the name and their discovery. Robert Hooke, he discovered it was year 1665. I have not written this. 1665, and he discovered the cell. He named the cell. Malpighi, he named Sacules utricle to the cell. He was before Robert Hooke, and it was in year 1661, 4 years before. And Leeuwenhoek was the next one in 1673 to observe living cell. And Robert Brown in 1831 discovered the nucleus. After these people, there was the two other German botanist and zoologist who were doing their experiment and many other work. And Schleiden and Schwann, and they both discovered, he was working on this. Schleiden was the botanist and he was working on a plant cell. They were working individually, not together. And Schwann was the zoologist and he was working on animal cell. He was the person who discovered that animal cell do not contain cell wall. There is no cell wall in animal cell. So he was the person to say this, Schwann. And Schleiden was the person who said that plant cells or plant is made up of cell. Even Schwann also discovered that all the animal cells were all the animals were composed of cell, and they both jointly proposed cell theory. They formulated the cell theory in 1839. Schleiden and Schwann theory. What does it says that cell is a basic structural and functional unit of an organism. Now the next one, Rudolf Virchow was the next person to say that cell arises from pre-existing cell. And he said this in the Latin phrase, that is omnis cellula e cellula. So this was the discovery of the cell. Thank you.